we're going to spend a decent chunk of time in the middle section, not the same, yet similar, which are the first three Gospels. I'm going to teach you a word if you don't know it, or I'm going to remind you of a word if you've heard it, and that is synoptics. S-Y-N is like synchronized, to put together, and then opsis is like optic, like an optical illusion. So synoptic means seen together. The three Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, very much see together. They have a lot of the same material in slightly different arrangements with slight variations, a lot of the same content organized in different ways to make different points. And then we have John, which is the fourth Gospel, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So the idea here is I'm going to tell you a little bit about what makes Mark unique, what makes Matthew unique, what makes Luke unique. And then I'm going to kind of squish them together in terms of what they have in common and compare them to John. And that's most of what we're going to talk about tonight before we go into Q&A and before we go into a group exercise. But before I get into anything else, you'll notice there are 4 arrows here. And these are the 4 phases of Christ's ministry, no matter which gospel you're in. So if you get a little confused or if you're not completely sure, first we begin with the time of preparation. This is things like the birth narratives, the birth of Jesus, his childhood, everything leading up to his baptism and the gathering of his first disciples. So, like his temptation. So we begin with his preparation time. Then we have the time of public ministry when the crowds love him and they follow him everywhere he goes, and there's miracles and there's popularity. Then we have the time of private ministry. This is when the persecution from religious leaders gets so intense that he's kind of hiding out. And while he's hiding out, staying away from the big crowds, he's instructing his disciples in all the things they'll need to know after he's gone. And then we have the time of the Passion. This is referred to often as the Passion Week. This is basically from Palm Sunday, when he makes the triumphant entry and they're heralding him as the new king, to the time of the crucifixion and then the resurrection. So no matter which gospel you're in, this is the pattern. Preparation, public ministry, private ministry, passion. So before I even get into all the differences, don't be too worried. The same pattern is in all 4. Now, just above these 3 drawings, which Kyle generously helped me with, thank you, there's a passage in Revelation, it's also in Ezekiel, where John the Beloved sees 4 creatures. And the first of these was like a lion, the second was like an ox, and the third had a human face. Now, I'm not attempting to make a theological point here. Just think of it as a memory aid. The Christian church for the last 2,000 years has made some connections between those 4 creatures that worship around the throne of God continuously and the 4 witnesses, the 4 gospels we have telling us about the life of Christ. However, there is some interesting correlation between how the 4 Gospels are written and these 4 creatures, and I'll just mention them in passing. The drawings and the similarities are there to kind of help you remember.